looks amazing.
I'm seeing how the twists blend with her hair over time. How she actually feels more confident.
Perfect. Yeah, that's perfect.
She's really more beautiful every week. That's definitely worth celebrating. Darling, fluffy, kinky. Twists that get better every day, just like you.
Do have a comprehensive bulletin that we have prepared for you with all of the latest stories that are making headlines in this country at this hour and also from across the globe. Many thanks for joining us. We begin on the political front, where Deputy President William Ruto has assured Mitumba traders in the country of a conducive environment for their trade. Ruto, who presided over the Mandera County Economic Forum, pledged to collaborate with the traders to ensure the textile industry in the country thrives.
Having spent the last 2 days in Garissa and Wajir, the Deputy President last night presided over the Mandera County Economic Forum. The Deputy President saying the Mitumba trade has turned around livelihoods of millions of Kenyans and should not be demeaned. Ruto has assured Mitumba traders in the country that if elected president, he will ensure there is a conducive environment for their trade.
Lazima tuwe waangalifu kabisa kama watu wa Kenya, kwa sababu hii siasa ya madharau na kiburi ya watu wachache lazima tukomeshe kwa hii uchaguzi. Mimi nataka niwaambie wale wafanyabiashara wa mitumba karibu milioni 2 katika taifa letu la Kenya ya kwamba hakuna vile biashara yao itapotea. Mimi nataka niwaeleze hiyo biashara yao kupitia kwa ile bottom up economic model. Hiyo biashara yao ndio itakuja iwe biashara ya cottage industry.
The Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate has also pledged to engage the Mitumba traders with a view of ensuring that the textile manufacturing industry in Kenya thrives.
We want our business people in the clothing subsector, whether you call them Mitumba or whatever you want to call them, those are the catalysts that will catalyze and will invest and will be the entrepreneurs that will grow our textile sector all the way to designer models in the Republic of Kenya.
Ruto called on the Mandera residents to vote for leaders who have the interests of the northern frontier counties.
Wewe mwananchi wa hapa Mandera, tunataka tukubaliane na nyinyi ili wewe mwananchi wa Mandera, wakati unaenda kupiga kura, yule ambaye unapiga kura akipata cheo, awe rais ama awe governor ama awe mjumbe, wewe mwananchi wa Mandera ambaye umepiga kura, wewe umepata nini?
While residents in Mandera outlined their priorities on the improvement of agriculture and the empowerment of small businesses, their leaders, on the other hand, demanded for an end to extrajudicial killings that they claim are rife in the area.
Hii maziwa tunafanya value change, hatuna vitu yake ya kutengeneza, ni kufanya tu kinyeji. So hizo mashini ya kufanya hiyo value change tunahitaji.
90% yao wanaendesha pikipiki ya wenyewe, si yao. Na wenye pikipiki ikifika jioni anataka shilingi 800.
Ukiingia, mimi kama rafiki yako ya miaka 15, I want you to bring a stop to extrajudicial killing.
John Jacob Curia, Lunchtime News.
Residents of Kajiado Central Sub-County are calling on the Kenya Wildlife Service to restrict elephants from invading their farms. The locals, who staged demos in response to the latest attack by the Jumbos, said the animals are a risk to their lives and property.
Parents, teachers and pupils of Lele Christian Primary School in Kajiado Central held protests after a herd of elephants invaded the school and destroyed the school fence, water tanks and piping infrastructure. The protesters called on the Kenya Wildlife Service to take swift action and restrain the animals to avert further destruction of human life and property.
Shule haina maji, sisi wakaaji wa hii area hatuna maji. Na ujue hii ni msimu wa kiangazi. Ng'ombe hawana maji, watu hawana maji. Tunaomba tafadhali waje tupate kwanza compensation ya fence electric ambayo inaweza fukuza hawa ndovu, na pia hiyo pipe ya maji turekebishiwe.
Residents say the constant invasion has impeded learning and left them fearing for their lives.
In fact sasa hivi ni kwamba watoto hawaji kwa ile saa ambayo inatakikana kwa sababu ya usalama yao. Na hata hivyo, hata jioni itabidi tuachilia watoto watoke mapema, na tumeambia wazazi wao wanakuja kuchukua watoto kwa sababu ya usalama wao.
Kajiado County is prone to human-wildlife conflict due to its proximity to national parks. For Lunchtime News, I'm Jaritich Kiprano.
And elsewhere, leaders of Boda Association of Kenya have vowed to support a presidential candidate who will have the interest of the operators at heart. Boda Association National Chairman Thomas Lesatin at the same time urged Boda operators across the country to vote in a government that will ensure prices of basic commodities are addressed. The Boda sector said it will persuade its members across the country to support a presidential candidate whose government will look into issues that will improve businesses and welfare of the youth who depend on Boda for a living. They also called on youths across the country to uphold peace and be vigilant of politicians who may want to use them to cause violence in the forthcoming general elections.
Kura yetu iko intact. Motorbike ilikuwa between 70 to 100. Lakini sasa motorbike inauzwa up to 150,000. Hakuna kijana ambaye ana afford hiyo kitu. Tuko na shida mingi sana kama loans, atu afford hizo pikipiki. Tunaomba ile serikali ambayo itaingia, ile ita negotiate na sisi kwamba hiyo reduce ya motorbike iweze kukuja chini. Bei ya mafuta irudi chini. Kama sio hiyo, sisi watu wa bodaboda kura yetu itakuwa intact mpaka tuongee na sisi. Vijana wetu wa bodaboda Kenya mzima chini ya umbrella bodaboda association kwamba tuimise amani. Na sisi kama jamii ya bodaboda tumesema sisi hatuna ukabila, lakini vile vile hakuna kacheli yoyote ambaye sisi ametubebea kura. Ule mtu ambaye
tungehitaji wao pia wakuje na watueleze ya kwamba watatufanyia nini kama vijana, kwa sababu naona ushumi imekuwa mbaya. Mafuta imepanda, mapikipiki zimepanda. Kwa hivyo tungehitaji ule mtu ambaye atakuja kusema tunawafanyia hivi na tuone maisha yetu ya kesho itakuwa mzuri.
Moving on, over 6,000 residents from Gede Mitangani in Ganze Sub-County, Kilifi County, are set to benefit from a 350-acre of land registered as community land to solve land disputes in the region. A land management committee has been elected to oversee the land matters in the region, even as the county government called on the beneficiaries to use this opportunity to resolve outstanding land disputes.
It was a welcome reprieve for the over 6,000 residents from the Gede Mitangani in Ganze Sub-County, Kilifi County, after they moved a step closer to owning land. Kilifi County Chief Officer for Land and Housing Dr. James Nguzo acknowledging the registration at Gede Mitangani will be replicated across 10 regions in Ganze.
Tunachagua serikali ya jamii hii ambayo itaongoza jamii hii kwa mambo ya ardhi hii na maendeleo ambayo yanaambatana na ardhi hii.
Ganze Sub-County Deputy Commissioner Louis Rono added that the registration process will go a long way in solving disputes that have ensued in the past across the region.
Ukiamua baadaye kila mtu atapata title yake. Ukiamua vile unajua ni afadhali ukiwa na title yako, ili kama utakuwa na watoto 12 na mimi niko na mtoto mmoja, utaona shamba lako linaishi wapi.
For the beneficiaries, this process couldn't have come at a better time.
Tunayo furaha kuu kwa sababu tumekuwa maskota tangu miaka 57 iliyopita. Hakika imetupatia nguvu kama jamii kwa sababu tunajua kwamba haki yetu tutapata.
Hatuja kuwa na ukombozi kama wa leo. Hata watu wamepata uhuru Kenya, lakini sisi bado tulikuwa ni kama tumekonana na makoloni.
Watu ni kama walikuwa wanataka kutunyanyasa kupitia hii ardhi yetu. Lakini tunashukuru kwa sababu hili zoezi tumekuwa na matumaini kwamba kuna matumaini mbele.
Hisufar reporting for Lunchtime News.
Away from that, the United Democratic Alliance senatorial aspirant Paul Karongo Wadhangwa suffered a blow after the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission failed to clear him. Karongo's heated exchange of words could not change the county returning officer's mind to clear him. Karongo was seeking to vie for the Kiambu senatorial seat on a UDA ticket.
This was the situation yesterday evening in Kiambu. Paul Karongo Wadhangwa political ambitions are facing stiff hurdles after the county returning officer failed to clear him.
After we arrived here, we found there are some other forces. There are people from above who are making calls and ordering around the CRO from clearing me. When he asks for a reason why, they don't know, they don't have a reason why they're not clearing me. When we press that question harder, we are told that there was a press release. So we are wondering whether somebody can read a newspaper and then communicate to a candidate, we are not going to clear you because I had something about you.
And it was a reprieve for leader of majority in the County Assembly of Nairobi, Abdi Ibrahim Guyo, after he was cleared to vie for the position of governor in Isiolo County. Guyo will face off with former Governor Godana Dayo, former Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission CEO Halake Wako, youthful businessman Kenneth Turibu, and Hussein Tene Dabaso.
Wamefanya kazi yao na njia nzuri sana. Inaonyesha IBC imejipanga mzuri sana na tunaona mipango ya kura wameweka mikakati ambayo inafaa na tunawapongeza kwa hiyo mambo.
Tunaambia wenzetu ambayo tunashindana na hawa, tuhakikishe kuwa tuuze sera, tuhakikishe kuwa amani na dumu, na mwenye atashinda basi ni Mungu ndiye atakuwa amehamua kati yetu.
Elsewhere, former Magarini Member of Parliament has been disqualified by IEBC for failing to have proper documents to enable him to vie. Noti was locked out and will not be in the race as only 6 candidates were cleared to contest for the race to succeed Governor Emerson Kingi.
So far, the exercise has gone on very well. We have not had any complaints. We have not had any violence. We have not had any intimidations and counter-intimidations. Everything went smoothly. And people, as far as I can tell from the feedback we have been receiving from people, the people are quite happy with the process.
Finally, Senate Minority Leader James Sorengo will face off with 3 opponents for the Siaya gubernatorial seat as IBC concluded the clearance process in Siaya.
But by the grace of God, we are first on the ballot paper. I'm saying this because, even when I first ran in Parliament for Uganda constituency, again, the same thing happened.
Among the candidates to face the veteran politician will be UDA candidate Millicent Adhiambo Oduor, who was given a nod to vie after IBC tribunal in Nairobi cleared her after looking for an alternative running mate.
I need to come up so that I work for my people to give back to the society. Because when you are a deputy, you are not in full force. You are not in control. But this time, I'm in the control. And I will do what it takes to help my Siaya people because we are in poverty.
Ruth Wamboy for Lunchtime News.
And a section of residents of Kawangware in Nairobi County is calling on county government to close down a dump site in the area, saying it is a health hazard. The locals say they are mounting health problems associated with the Msalaba dump site, urging authorities to also probe the type of waste being dumped there.
Watusaidie, kama kuna usaidizi wanaweza tusaidia hapa, wakuja tusaidie watengeneze hiyo mtaro uwe shwari mtaro.
Kwa jumla haswa sehemu za Kawangware, Getina na Kabiro tumekuwa na changamoto za takataka na usongamano wa takataka kwa wakaaji wangu wa
In Migori County, civil society groups have called on the county government to implement the Climate Change Act. The enactment of the Climate Change Policy Act will ensure a 2% budgetary fund allocation to the war on climate change in the county.
In a 2-day climate forum on matters concerning devolution and climate change, the effects of climate change and its impacts were given heavy consideration. Migori County Deputy Director, National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, Samson Ochwere, said if the relevant authorities and climate change organizations do not put much consideration to adopt the set policy frameworks like the County Integrated Development Fund and Climate Change Acts, the country may be harshly affected by the effects of climate change.
How do we mainstream this climate change into the various sectors that are captured as devolved functions within the county? And it is important that the county government does this as required by law, that is under the Climate Change Act, and also for the good of the people of Migori County.
Ochwere urged the county government to act as required by the law under the climate change to help cushion Kenyan citizens from the severe effects of global warming.
All our participants here have made sure that they are conversant before we get to the point of developing our medium-term plan for the county, which is the County Integrated Development Plan, so that they can have an input on what we call climate action within the county.
County advocacy and team leader at Dhaka, Velma Oseko, stated that they have been working towards ensuring there is capacity building and empowerment of climate change CBOs.
So we are waiting to see when the budget comes out, have they incorporated the actions that the communities have forwarded to them.
The vice chairperson of the Migori Civil Society, Titus Orwa, urged the community to fully participate in the climate change matters so that they can push the county government to act on climate change policies.
The next financial year, we want to see whoever will be managing will be the chief executive of the county, that is the governor, to ensure that one, the allocation of 2% is in the budget.
Beatrice Getonyenge-Tich, Lunchtime News.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i has affirmed the government's commitment to secure the cyberspace in the wake of rising cases of cyberbullying and abuse of social media. Speaking during the launch of the Cyber Security Strategy 2022-2026, Matiang'i expressed optimism that the policy document will help in combating cyber threats.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i was in Naivasha, Nakuru County to open a cyber security workshop. Speaking during the event, which brought together cyber security experts and stakeholders, Matiang'i noted the progress the country has made in the uptake of technology.
Growth in technology and growth in investment in technology has been phenomenal. I mean, whether you look at the mobile money transfer, where we have hit about 6.8 trillion in terms of transfer from where we were nearly 1.9 trillion 10 years ago, whether you look at the number of mobile phone subscribers, whether you're looking at the amount of business that's transacted digitally, it is abundantly clear for us that this is an environment that is growing and growing rapidly.
According to the CS, the growth has unfortunately led to a surge in cyber threats, with perpetrators striving to always be a step ahead.
A future nightmare, because this is where very sophisticated and dynamic crime is going to occur. And this is the space where, as I said, creating a very sustainable infrastructure for policing is difficult, not just to our government, but to governments around the world.
The situation is, however, bound to change as the government, in collaboration with private sector players, is developing a national cyber strategy dubbed the Cyber Security Strategy of 2022 to 2026.
Developing a national cyber security strategy, quite frankly, is a big step in ensuring that the cyber environment that we operate in and we're going to operate is secured, and that we are acquiring capabilities to secure it for ourselves, for our economy, for our society, and for future generations.
The workshop offers a platform for stakeholders to validate the draft of the strategy, which is aimed at, among others, protecting the integrity of the country's data systems from hackers and saboteurs. For Lunchtime News, I'm Safin Aching Ouma.
Elsewhere, about 6,000 young people in Narok County have benefited from Phase 3 of the National Hygiene Program dubbed Kazi Mtaani. The program is set to benefit the most vulnerable youth in the 8 sub-counties to cushion them and offer them a source of income.
The program, launched at the Kenya Forest Service nursery bed by the Narok County Commissioner Isaac Masinde, will improve living standards of youth in the county, who will earn 455 shillings daily, while their supervisors will earn 505 shillings every day. Isaac Masinde said about 11,188 people had applied for the program online, while others gave their hard copies to the chiefs.
Tumepewa slots. Zile slots ambazo tumepewa wala ambao watakuwa wanafanya kazi, tumepewa slots 5,989 wala ambao watakuwa wanafanya kazi, the workers in Narok County in 30 wards. Msiseme tu ni hapa peke yake. Alafu wala ambao watakuwa wasimamizi ama supervisors tulipewa 102, watakuwa 102.
Those recruited will also benefit from a session of trainings which will include health, finance, cultural and government programs available to boost them financially. Planting trees, cleaning drainages and collecting garbage are among the duties the youth will be assigned to. Narok North Police Commander Fred Shiundu also urged the youth to take advantage of the program and utilize the opportunity. Elsewhere, a total of 840 youth from Lamu sub-county have been selected for the 3rd phase of Kazi Mtaani, with plans to increase the number. Deputy County Commissioner Philip Olo has urged the youth to engage more in development endeavors and shun the use of drugs for the betterment of their lives.
Ujumbe wangu kwa vijana ni kwamba wajitokeze, kwa sababu hii ni program ya serikali, haswa inaangalia vijana ambao hawana kazi. So wajitokeze wote, kuna nafasi, serikali imetoa nafasi ili wakuje wafanye hii kazi.
The youth lauded the program, saying it will help improve their living standards. The program is spearheaded by the state.
Mimi kama mama, kazi itanisaidia kwa familia yangu kuangalia, kuongeza pia kipato kwa nyumba. Bwana kileta nusu na mimi nitaongezea na tutaendelea kimaisha.
The program is spearheaded by the State Department of Housing and funded by the Government of Kenya. The 3rd phase is running from June to August and is expected to cost the taxpayer approximately 4.8 billion shillings. Elvis Otieno for Lunchtime News.
Away from that, 2 girls who were defiled and killed in Makueni have been laid to rest in their home in Boni, Makueni County. The minors went missing on Saturday, only for their bodies to be found dumped in a house of a man whose locals later accused of committing the crime.
A somber mood engulfed a village in Booni as residents bid farewell to 2 minors whose lives were cut short by an alleged sex predator. The 2 girls are said to have gone missing on Saturday morning after a visit to their home by 34-year-old Charles Musembi, who had barely worked for a month as a farmhand on a neighbor's farm. The minors, who were under the custody of their sickly uncle, are said to have been lured by Charles to his house where allegedly defiled and killed them. At the funeral, parents were urged to closely monitor their children to avert a repeat of the deadly act.
Wazazi wa Mboni, na sio Mboni, hata Kenya mzima na Makueni yote. Wazazi tunafaa tushughulikie watoto wetu. We should not trust our strangers with our children.
Kama hizi zimekuwa juu kwa miaka kadhaa. Tuwezi sema kwamba ni wazazi peke yao, sana sana wa mama. Lakini tunaomba hii kuwe ni kama ni collective responsibility ya wazazi wote.
The residents further urged the government to offer job opportunities to the youth to stop them from indulging in drug abuse and criminal activities. Jacqueline Masharia for Lunchtime News.
Moving on, parents and learners in Mwalimu Farm, Ruiru Sub-County are all smiles after a new public primary school opened its doors for pupils in the area. Mwalimu Farm Primary School was constructed by the national government in collaboration with the Ruiru NGCDF. The school is meant to decongest public schools in the area.
Tumeweza kujenga madarasa 8 na madarasa 5 tukiwa na tegemeo la kujenga mengine 3 ili tuweze kufanya madarasa 8 na shule iwe ya kukamilika. Shamba hili hapa tuko ekari 12, kwa hivyo shamba hili linaweza beba shule ya sekondari.
Wakati wanaenda shule inakuwa ni mapema saa zingine na tunaogopa wanyama wakali kwa siweje wakavamia njiani. So ndio maana tulikuja na hii maono ya hii shule na tukamuhusisha MP wetu.
Anaamka saa 9, wanatoka saa 10. Na huko adhi kuna wakati mtu nafurika. Mtu ikifurika watoto anakaa mwezi mzima nyumbani. Wanarudi nyuma kwa masomo juu ya hiyo mto. Tunamshukuru sana, tunamwambia Mungu ambariki, ametuletea shule.
It is time now for a break, but we'll be back with so much more, including an interview in our business segment on the issue of mixed-use development. Do keep it here for that.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Our arts and entertainment industry has evolved over the years.
It is at such times that our destinies are written. Will we rise up in courage or die in cowardice?
Who are the movers and shakers in film and theatre? Get trendy as we review locally produced films and stage drama every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on Cinemas and Theatre.
Brought to you by the Kenya Film Commission. Film Kenya, Capture Africa.
The National Youth Service will hold its pass-out graduation ceremony this Friday, 10th of June 2022. His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta will be the guest of honor during the pass-out parade to be held at NYS Training College in Gilgil, Nakuru County. Follow the proceedings live on KBC Channel 1 this Friday from 9 a.m. NYS, go on, be great.
Welcome back. It is time now for business. The National Environment Management Authority has launched a plastic collection program in schools seeking to impart knowledge on environment conservation. The sustainability initiative, spearheaded by Nissy company, seeks to transform ways of doing business and create positive change in the environment.
Climate change impacts result in socio-economic losses estimated at 3 to 4% of gross domestic product annually and impede development efforts. To help curb climatic changes, Nissy has rolled out the Re-Sustainability Initiative with the aim of minimizing environmental pollution. The program, focusing on rethinking, reducing and repurposing pollutants, will include activities such as water conservation, recycling and supporting environmentally responsible practices. The initiative will drive reduction across the food production value chain, including food and plastic waste and operational efficiencies that contribute to waste.
We are here to support or to work together with Nissy Kenya for purposes of equipping our learners with the necessary knowledge, skills, and change their attitudes so that they are able to take care of the environment, which is part of our education for sustainable development.
Climate change is a reality that we are facing, and it comes out of the practices that we as humans are doing. So I think it's for us to again adopt our initiative on RE, so that then we rethink on the decisions that we take. We repurpose all the materials and that we're using, our manufacturing practices, to make sure that then we are moving from a linear to a circular economy. And lastly is to just reduce the negative practices that impact the environment.
The 10 participating schools in Nairobi County will be engaged in plastics collection program around the schools and its environments as they embrace the need for an importance of conserving the environment. Reporting for Lunchtime News, I am Teresa Mutai.
Farmers across the country are being sensitized on the need to adopt good agricultural practices to prevent contamination of food products at the farm level. The move is aimed at improving food safety through the enhancement of quality and safety standards in a variety of crop value chains.
The Agrochemical Industry Association is raising awareness on the importance of safe food and its contribution to healthy lives by coaching farmers on safe food control systems. The program is set up on the premise between the health of people, animals and the environment to improve food safety and help meet the nutritional and health needs of the future. Agrochemical Association of Kenya CEO Eric Kimungui called on farmers to observe the guidelines written on the chemical packages before using the chemicals on their crops. He noted that high complacency resulted in chemical residues that caused health challenges to consumers of crop products. The program will include training farmers on the use of protective equipment while using the chemicals.
One of the responsibilities of pest control industry is to reduce crop losses that farmers face. Pests, you have had a lot of pests and everything else. However, while we do that, also the safety of the farmer and the safety of food we eat, while we recognize that pest control products are important to use, comes first, and that's our priority as an industry.
Efforts by the Ministry of Agriculture will also ensure that farmers are knowledgeable on what chemicals to use on different crops as well as their means of disposal.
Kwa hivyo lengo letu kama serikali ni kwamba tutashikana na washikadau wengine ambao wanatoka kwa sehemu binafsi ama private sector na wale wengine wa serikali za wilaya za county na serikali kuu kuonyesha kwamba chakula ambacho tunapata ni bora kwetu, ni bora kwa wale ambao tunauzia na hata bora kwa ile chakula ambacho tunatuma katika nchi za kigeni.
Meru County is at advanced stages of coming up with a policy framework that will help regulate the use of chemicals for farming.
Controls have to be introduced on the chemical residues that we Africans, we Kenyans, we Merus are also eating because we also want to live.
Ndusa Mukami for Lunchtime News.
And Kenya Power has launched a 340 million shillings Liveline laboratory to be used in the testing and certification of equipment used in the Liveline maintenance. Operationalization of the lab reduces the farm's operating costs by 36 million shillings annually that the company had in the past spent outsourcing Liveline testing services.
Data from the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, indicates that power interruption in Kenya takes up to 7 hours against a global average of 1.36 hours, costing the economy millions of shillings.
What we used to have before, when we wanted to do minor maintenance on our lines, we used to switch off the whole line. But with this equipment, with this program, we are able to maintain our lines even when the lines are alive.
To remedy this, Kenya Power has delved into Liveline maintenance. Kenya is a pioneer in sub-Saharan Africa to deploy the use of Liveline technology that allows for the maintenance of electricity networks without disconnecting customers.
This has also improved customer satisfaction, especially in the industrial areas.
The 2 billion shillings program was launched in 2019 with the support from the World Bank. Of this amount, 340 million shillings was invested in the establishment of the Liveline lab and its equipment.
To that end, we acquired 28 number trucks, which was now a scale up from the initial 7 that we had, so as to ensure that we could now scale up this Liveline work across the organization, touching on all the regions of KPLC.
The firm under the program procured insulated trucks and carried out capacity building that has seen it on average do 36,600 live maintenance sessions annually.
Kenya Power alone is able to save about 1 billion Kenya shillings out of deployment of this technology.
Stakeholders are optimistic that the adoption of Liveline maintenance and operationalization of the lab will go a long way in reducing power downtime. EPRA indicates that Kenyan households and factories are plunged into darkness for an average of 25 days annually due to blackouts. Regina Manyara reporting for Lunchtime News.
All right, it is time now for our interactive segment, and we are joined by Shiro Okobi, who is the commercial director at Mivida Homes, and she's here to have a conversation with us in the topic of housing and mixed-use development. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Let's just begin from the onset, from the bottom. Mm-hmm. Mixed-use development, housing. What is that?
So a mixed-use development is a development that allows for synergies of uses across different types of real estate assets. So you'll find a mix of commercial, residential, retail, sometimes industrial, all providing for accessibility and convenience in one location.
Okay. So that would be for us a place with houses. Correct. That has what?
A place with houses that has access to your office, has access to your bank, has access to your shopping centers, access to your medical services, usually within walking distance. So that's the idea of the access, the ease of access within walking distance, right?
And what would be the appeal for this mixed-use development in Kenya?
So one of the primary appeals, at least in Kenya, is obviously the reduced need of vehicles. When you have everything within access, easily accessible, is convenient to you, there's that lower dependence on vehicles, and inherently creates a more active, healthy lifestyle because you're walking everywhere. I think it also allows for a segment of the community to be able to gather to where they live, where they work, where they play, creating that more community sense, more of a vibrant community. And what you find also with mixed-use developments, the developers behind these types of developments are normally of a higher caliber. So you have a better grade of assets. So as an investor, for example, investing in a mixed-use development, you have what we call an investment grade opportunity, all within one location. Another great offering with mixed-use developments is through the synergies, you can take advantage of some of the dependencies you find between the different assets. So for example, if you have your office next to your residential, you have your immediate tenant demand right there. So for an investor, that's a great offering. You're able to play into the yield, having that access to your tenant demand.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're coming out of a pandemic, kind of a post-pandemic era. Mm-hmm. And how is the housing sector picking up after the coronavirus pandemic?
So I think we've all gone through what we are terming the COVID fatigue. Kenyans are very resilient, and it's business business as usual. As developers, we are really anxious to pick up where we left off. And you're seeing that. You're seeing the revived energy from both sides of the table, from the developer side and also from the demand side. So there's definitely a desire to get the economy moving again, get back to business, coming from that hull that we had with COVID.
Mm-hmm. And also just, coming from the COVID, and then now we are going into an election. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure a lot of people would be, let's wait and see, and then we will invest. So how is that affecting housing?
So, we find two types of buyers within our market. You definitely have people who are entrenched locally. So those of us who are local to this market, we've been through this cycle before. We've been through election periods before. There's also that desire to kind of revive the industry coming out of COVID. So within that segment of people who are used to this type of arena, we're not seeing much movement. We are seeing continued demand from that segment of the market. Understandably, there is a small segment that are wait and see, but I think having had a history of elections before, successful elections before, there's less of that. There's less of that concern.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now let's talk about Mivida Homes. Mm-hmm. Let's go straight into that. This is a phase one of a 3-phase project. Okay, tell us a little bit about that.
Great. Mivida is a joint venture between leading industry developer Actis and an Indian conglomerate, Shapoorji Pallonji Real Estate, or SPRI. Mm-hmm. And it's a middle income platform that answers the question of real quality middle income housing within our sector, which is a real need, and that's the space we're playing in. So we are successfully completing our first project at Garden City, Mivida at Garden City, on time this month, and planning to deliver in the following month. And it's phase one of our 3-phase project. But being a platform, we are going to grow the brand to Nairobi and its environs.
Okay, so this phase one, give us a picture of that. How does that look like? Is it complete? Have you put in, you've mentioned a shopping center, schools, etc. What can people find in there?
Yeah, great question. So Mivida project at Garden City actually sits on 4 acres of land within Garden City. Mm-hmm. So we're offering a typology of 1-bedrooms, 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom apartments. And we've dedicated part of our ethos to provide an urban green living space. We've dedicated an acre to green living. So we're talking about jogging tracks, swimming facilities, very family-friendly environment with children playgrounds. So it's essentially creating a city within a city. Garden City already being a thriving mixed-use city as it is. Mivida is serving to provide a residential, a home for people within that urban space.
Okay. There have also been assertions that most urban centers have an oversupply of office space. And, as much as it is very appealing, how affordable is it in comparison to what is there in the market?
Correct. The commercial space has seen, increase in supply. But what you find, it's normally very centralized. You have centralized office spaces in your Westland nodes, your Upper Hill nodes, and there are still a lot of areas that do demand that kind of facilities that are underserved. A good example being the corridor of the Thika Superhighway, where you don't have that kind of commercial offering, grade A office space as it may, within easy access to CBD, to the airport. So as much as there's a supply, it's very centralized, and there's an opportunity for developers which we've leveraged to provide that commercial offering in underserved areas.
Okay. So in closing, what would be your closing remarks?
I think real estate is a very interesting space right now. It's a huge contributor to our economy, so it's not only interesting but a very important space. And developers are working very hard to create or to maintain that energy within our industry. With the rising cost of materials, additional fees being levied, there's a lot of adverse market effects that developers are facing. But what we found is, what we're trying to employ is best practices to soften the impact, so that we are still able to provide that quality product to our buyers, still able to provide that whatever cost savings we can achieve, pass those along to our buyers. So I think we are hopeful within the real estate space, and would want to continue to see how it unfolds through the year.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. We have been talking to Shiro Okobi, who is the commercial director at the Mivida Homes, and we have been talking about mixed-use development, a place where you find everything in one gated community. Moving on, the public will soon be able to pay for the use of the Nairobi Expressway using mobile money. The Kenya National Highways Authority says the operator of the expressway is working with various telcos to integrate mobile money payment solutions among the 3 available payment options. Kenha Director General Engineer Kohondungo further says 17,000 vehicles are using the road on average daily since it was open to the public on the 14th of May.
Since the Nairobi Expressway was open to the public on a trial basis on the 14th of May 2022, the road has experienced congestion on some exit ramps, especially at Museum Hill Loop. This has been blamed on the high number of those using the cash payment mode, with the data from Moja Expressway indicating that 65.5% of road users are paying via cash mode, which takes longer than the electronic and card options. According to the Moja data, electronic toll collection option is the second popular mode of payment, accounting for 25.8% of all payment. Manual toll collection users come last with 8.7%. The Kenya National Highways Authority Director General Engineer Kohondungo says to boost the number of electronic toll collection and manual toll collection centers, Moja Expressway plans to roll out more payment centers to complement the current 2 available, which are based along Mombasa Road and Lavington.
And we are encouraging most of the motorists, if not all of us, to migrate from cash payments to electronic payments. And electronic payments are available to any of us for any vehicle, including PSVs, where you install a unit that allows you to seamlessly go through the exit points, and similarly also at the entry points.
Kenha and Moja engineers are redesigning the Kenyatta Avenue Uhuru Highway Junction to erect another exit ramp towards the Central Business District and Valley Road.
Initially, we were to run around where we have the Green Park. But due to several difficulties, that was reconsidered. But now we are reconsidering introducing at least a ramp that drops in town. And we believe this will enhance convenience for many of us who will be moving towards the CBD and support the city center in terms of movement.
To facilitate pedestrian crossing, Kenha will construct 6 more bridges along the highway to complement the existing 4. The Kenha DG further says the rehabilitation of Mombasa Road is set to begin in a month's time. O'Brien Kimani for Lunchtime Business News.
And passengers can now book to travel at night to and from Kisumu via the passenger train starting this Friday. Kenya Railways Managing Director Philip Mainga says the passenger train service will be leaving Nairobi Central Station at 6:30 p.m. and arrive in Kisumu at 6:30 a.m., while the return trip will be every Sunday.
On 17th of December last year, the Nairobi-Nakuru-Kisumu passenger train service resumed operations after 15 years following the refurbishment of the meter gauge railway line. Since then, the passenger train has been operating once a week during the day. And today, Kenya Railways has announced the introduction of a night service between Nairobi and Kisumu, but says it will no longer be operating the day train. Passengers booking from Nairobi will depart at 6:30 p.m. and arrive in Kisumu at 6:30 a.m. Travelers in Kisumu can board the train at 6:30 p.m. and arrive in Nairobi 12 hours later. The service will be offered every Friday and Sunday. Kenya Railways Managing Director Philip Mainga said that the Kisumu Safari train has proved to be a hit, with many revelers and dwellers from the lakeside region taking to the train as a preferred mode of travel. The Kisumu night train will now make stops at Kikuyu, Naivasha, Nakuru, Njoro, Elbagon, Turi, Molo, Mau Summit, Londiani, Kedowa, Kipkelion, Tunnel, Fort Tenan, Koru, Muhoroni, Chemelil, Kibigori, Miwani, Kibos before arriving at the final destination in Kisumu. Passengers will pay 2,000 shillings in the first class and 600 shillings for a ride in the economy class. The Kenya Railways Corporation also plans to commence services to Butere later next month. Caroline Jenga for Lunchtime News.
And moving on, Egypt is stepping up efforts to increase the country's self-sustainability of staple food as the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict puts it on the verge of a food crisis. Egyptian Minister of Planning and Economic Development says they are creating an adequate amount of reserves for all strategic foods. Here are the details of the story and much more from across the continent.
Egypt is a major importer of food. About 80% of the country's wheat imports come from Russia and Ukraine. It also imports 98% of its vegetable oil needs, 70% of which come from the two countries. The Russia-Ukraine conflict shocked the global supply of strategic food items, making Egypt vulnerable. But luckily, the COVID-19 pandemic had made the country increase its reserves. Now it's trying to diversify its sources of food import. Egypt plans to increase its wheat production to cover up to 65% of its needs next year. The advanced irrigation techniques and the expansion in wheat cultivated land are expected to increase production from 9 million tons up to 14 million tons in 2023. Meanwhile, palm oil prices are expected to stabilize in Nigeria following the lifting of an export ban on the commodity by Indonesia. Nigeria's demand for palm oil is about 3 million metric tons annually, and its local production capacity is at an average of 1.4 million metric tons. The nation spends around $500 million annually on importing palm oil to meet demand, and the export ban by Indonesia disrupted supply and led to a spike in price. Economists say it may take a while before prices stabilize, and Nigeria would have to ramp up production to tap into global palm oil value chain. Finally, Tunisia's tourism industry is gradually recovering as passenger numbers rise with the easing of COVID-19 travel restrictions. Tunis Air has 14 planes and plans to rent 2 additional aircraft to cope with the high demand this season. Passenger air traffic in Tunisian airports saw a surge in the first quarter of 2022, with passenger numbers surpassing the 1.2 million passengers who traveled to and from the country in the first quarter of last year. Aircraft movements doubled in the period to cope with the increased passenger numbers. Tunisian authorities are optimistic that the recovery will continue throughout the year, bringing a much-needed boost to the country's flagging economy.
Now on to the day's sports, where Liverpool star Sadio Mane scored a penalty 8 minutes into added time to give Senegal a dramatic 1-0 win over heartbroken Rwanda on Tuesday in 2023 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying. Meanwhile, Comoros lost to Zambia 2-1 in Lusaka last night.
Senegal registered a dramatic 1-0 win over Rwanda on Tuesday in the 2023 African Cup of Nations qualifiers match. Sadio Mane rescued the Teranga Lions on 98 minutes with a hard, low penalty that eluded the outstretched hand of a goalkeeper Olivier Kwizera. Mane has starred in the first two matches for the title holders, scoring 4 goals, including a match-day 1 hat-trick against Benin. Despite the huge rankings gap, Senegal took no chances against the Rwandan team, who have qualified for the Cup of Nations only once in 13 attempts. Elsewhere, Kings Kagwa rifled a free kick into the net on 88 minutes to give Zambia a vital 2-1 win victory over Comoros in Lusaka. Former African champions Zambia achieved success the hard way, coming from behind in a fast tempo, foul-riddled regional showdown. Comoros wasted several early second-half chances to get in front again as Kagwa snatched a deserved victory.
Comoros look to steal in some terrible communication, and there is certainly an opportunity at goal, and it is excellently taken by the team.
In the Europa League, Harry Kane's late penalty gave England a Nations League draw in Germany as he became the only second man to score 50 goals for his country. Meanwhile, European champions Italy beat Hungary 2-1 to move top of Nations League Group A3.
England captain Kane sent Germany keeper Manuel Neuer the wrong way from the spot with 2 minutes left as a VAR review ruled he had been brought down by Nico Slotterback. It was a goal that gave England their first point in the tournament after defeating Hungary on Saturday and moved Kane into second place in the all-time record standings.
Him and that, and again he keeps his cool. 58.
Moving ahead of Sir Bobby Charlton to sit only 3 behind Wayne Rooney. England looked to be going down to their second defeat but came to life late on in Munich after going behind to Jonas Hoffmann's deflected 50th minute shot, and will now look to build on this result when they face Italy at Molineux on Saturday. In other matches, Italy secured a 2-1 draw over Hungary while Finland secured a 2-0 win over Montenegro. Tonight, Belgium will play Poland, Wales play Netherlands, Republic of Ireland to meet Ukraine, while Scotland tackles Armenia.
Lines and it falls to Kimmich.
And it is time now to put a cap on KBC Lunchtime News, but I do hope you've been adequately informed from our top stories to our interview on housing. I would like to appreciate some people here on Facebook, Jimmy Manai, who says is tuned in, Samson Kebaki, Famin Koech, Beatrice Kalia, Victor Mololo, and so much more. We do appreciate your feedback and your interaction on all of our social media handles at KBC Channel 1. I am Nissy Imano, and Wangeshi has been our sign language interpreter. Good afternoon, God bless, and enjoy the rest of your viewing.